Welcome back to the Sovereign Ratio. With Bitcoin busting through a potential head and shoulders and a potential Bart Simpson on the shorter term timeframes, and now at 37K, I want to take some time and look back at history and show you where the next probable stop is, and kind of go through the market so we can all plan for what's to come. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, and leave me a comment below. All right, so first we're going to talk about Bitcoin and look back in history a little bit. And then later in the video, we're going to talk about altcoins and what the next step is for altcoins if you're not in an altcoin position at the moment. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is take a trip back to July 2019 and look at the previous Bitcoin bull run. Or should you call it a bear market relief bounce or the disbelief stage of the market psychology, whatever you want to call it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab a Fibonacci here and take it from the previous top to the new bottom of that cycle. What's important to note here is what Bitcoin did at various Fibonacci levels. You can see back here, Bitcoin ran up and touched the 382 the week of June 10th, 2019. The week following that, it ran up to the 0.5 Fibonacci retracement, June 17th. The week after that, it ran up to the 0.618 and the 0.65, which is the golden pocket of the Fibonacci. The week after that, June 24th. If we go back and look at some indicators during that time as well, we can see that Bitcoin was heavily overbought. The RSI actually peaked up here on the weekly chart at this valuation right under the 382 and went down a little bit to touch the top of the bullish part of the channel and just bounced right back up. Also, the ultimate stochastic was terribly overbought, and even the regular stochastic had been overbought for a significant amount of time. So it wouldn't be shocking for a lot of people to take profits in that area just based off of TA. But you can see Bitcoin kept going in that area, in that overbought area, for quite a while after that. And it actually took two drives of overbought here on the ultimate stochastic to signal the top of that particular part of the run. Also, you can see that volatility peaked out here on the BBWP. So I wouldn't have blamed anyone for selling here at 9K. You would have just missed a run up to 14K. But, the indicators all stated right here that we should probably be done, but Bitcoin pushed on even further. One of the rare examples where probably a mix of a lot of different indicators would have been the only thing that would have told you that, or just historically knowing what Bitcoin would do at the time. Let's keep all that fresh in our mind, get rid of that Fibonacci, and go back to the previous cycle. So if we go back here and we do the exact same thing, a swing high to a swing low, we can see that the 618 and 65 was not breached until after the halving, but it did get relatively close just prior to the halving. So you can see this run up that started here. When Bitcoin ran up and got to the 382 retracement, the next week it ran up and went just shy of the 0.5 retracement, and the following week it ran up and got somewhat close to the 618 retracement, leading us to see kind of a confluence between that cycle and the next cycle that we just looked at. You can see that it did not actually breach the 618, 65 golden pocket until after significantly amount of time after the halving here in December. But it did eventually do that. This here to me is close enough. So now we have 2 points of data that are pretty similar, not time-wise, but price level-wise and Fibonacci-wise, to kind of get an idea of what's going on. We can see that when the 382 is breached, it's basically a 3-week bull run. Until a retracement happens. Now, the depth of that retracement is going to dictate how I approach altcoins around the halving, which is going to be more toward the end of our video. But we can see some confluence for sure at that golden pocket area, the 0.5 retracement and the 0.382 retracement. Now that brings us to present day. What's happening in the world right now is the window for the SEC to start approving Bitcoin spot ETFs actually starts today. So there's a lot of excitement, and generally it's a news event that causes that run up to the 618. So it's not out of line. There was probably news in the last cycle, and there was probably news in the cycle before that caused that run up. So there's always a reason for the run up, but the TA is also usually the same in some regard. In this particular instance, it's not time-based. It's more when Bitcoin runs up to the 618, and the weekly candles for the 382, the 0.5, and the 618 all in succession, 3 in a row. Not necessarily how far away it is from the halving, but that's what's happened. And you can see that it is a big deal right now that Coinbase has hired a super counsel legal team for the SEC as they review the ETF application. And also, there was something interesting that happened yesterday on Coinbase. There was a tremendous amount of spot buying. While I'm sure still a lot of people are going long and short and playing that game, playing the futures game, there was a tremendous uptick in spot buying yesterday on Coinbase, which could potentially be a big institution getting ready for that ETF approval, making sure that they have it before the price goes way too high. Well, not way too high, but higher than it is now, of course. So that's really what's going on in the world of Bitcoin right now. Everybody's on the edge of their seat waiting for this approval, waiting for price to just shoot up. And the question then becomes, where's price going to go? Well, we'll take a look at that right now. So for me, there's a couple of things of interest. First of all, you can see that this area here around 32K or 31.8K is going to be a nice level of support for Bitcoin if it were to make a correction. We also have this trend line that is not really a great trend line in my opinion. It only has 2 touch points, and the last touch point was very far away back in April. However, using that trend line, it lines up with a couple of other things. So the top of this trend line, if Bitcoin were to shoot up right now, it's around that 48 to 50K area. And then also, if we just kind of zoom out a little bit here, grab our Fibonacci tool, we're going to swing high to swing low. We can see that the 382 was just touched in the last weekly candle. So that would lead us to believe, based off of previous cycles, that this weekly candle is probably going to run up somewhere close to the 0.5, which sits at 42K. And we know that 40K is a big psychological level. So I could see Bitcoin going up to 40K this week. And if it follows its previous path, then the week after that would run up somewhere close to the 618 at 48K, which in my opinion will probably stop in the 45K area. After that, we've always seen a retracement of some sort. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. I could definitely see that scenario playing out, and it lines up here with the 618 retracement, lines up with this trend line. And there's just a lot of things going on. The RSI is in a similar position. The RSI is very overbought. The stochastic just got into the severely overbought area. The ultimate stochastic, however, has not even got into the severely overbought area. It's getting ready to cross there, and I imagine at the end of the day today, or at the end of this weekly candle, it will be. But also the BBWP has not fully expanded yet. And in previous cycles, the BBWP had fully expanded all the way up to the top of the range or very close to it before the top of that particular run-up happened. Now this run-up, of course, is predicated off of one of the biggest things that could ever happen to Bitcoin. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Bitcoin go even higher than that, to be honest with you, if there was a spot ETF approval. But also at the end of that, I think there would be a huge sell-off. I really do. People would buy into the news, and then it would top out, and then there would be a dramatic drop. Just like we had a dramatic run-up, there'd be a dramatic drop. And as you can see, we're also getting pretty close to the halving now. We're about 175 days away from the halving. And what I actually did was I grabbed the previous cycle bars and I just made a copy of it and looked to see what's going to happen after that, right? So usually there's a pullback at some point, whether it's, here in like August of next year, or whether it's sometime before the halving, maybe we run up and then we have a dip down. Obviously a dip down could stop at 32K, but a dip down could also stop down here at 26K, which is a huge level for Bitcoin. I honestly don't think it will probably ever go below 26K ever again. But if it did, it would probably stop at the 22K area. I don't see it retracing all the way back to the bottom again. It would take some crazy, horrible black swan event for something like that to happen. But for now, 22K worst case scenario, 26K is a possibility, and 32K is a possibility. But looking at the next cycle, or at the end of this cycle again, I just kind of replicated the bars and stretched them out to what I think would happen. And the 2618 actually sits at 151K, which there's usually a decent retracement of the 2618 on the way up to the very top of the bull run. So I just kind of mapped that out here. I could definitely see a run up starting after the halving all the way up to 151K, and then a pullback, and then back to the 1618 at 100K, and then another run up to 200 and some K. I would probably say 200K is probably the top of the tops, but you never know. Things could just get terribly bullish and go further than that. But that brings us to the point of altcoins. What do we do about altcoins? So in previous bear market relief rallies, or the disbelief stage of the market psychology chart, or even just whatever you want to call the start of the bull run, when Bitcoin runs up to the 618, it generally in that part of the cycle gets a bigger return than altcoins. I'm sure there are other altcoins that are going to outperform it, like Injective Protocol, maybe Alluvium, and some others are definitely going to give a bigger percentage gain than Bitcoin on your money. But overall, Bitcoin gets a bigger gain than the entire total 3 space. So this chart here I actually got from Benjamin Cowan. It's total 3 minus Tether divided by Bitcoin. And I actually like it a lot because it gives us a good reference point as far as when altcoins are the best pick. And generally, it's down here in this line. You can see back here in August of 2019, it touched it, and then again in June 20, and then it actually went below it here in December of 20. And we all know that's when the altcoins started to rip more than Bitcoin, because I've looked at that in a previous video. Bitcoin started to rip in like October, and then the altcoins actually started to rip really hard in December. So for me, the best time to convert to altcoins is whenever it gets down to this 0.25 line on this chart. If you want to create this chart, you would just add the formula in here, hit the plus sign and add the formula in here, and you can create this chart for yourself. But up here, whenever this chart goes all the way to the top, that was in that area where altcoins were running hard, May of 21, August of 21, and January of 22, which actually the bull market had ended at that point. But you can see basically this is the move we're looking for right here. Unfortunately, the history does not go back all the way just because of the existence of Tether, but this move right here is kind of what I'm looking for, something to come down here. Now, when this chart goes down, that doesn't necessarily mean that the price of altcoins is going down. It just means that the total market cap of Bitcoin is higher than that of total 3. It's going up faster. The valuation of Bitcoin itself is going up faster than altcoins and is kind of overtaking the market cap. But then when altcoins rip, as we know, they really rip. It's not that they're not ripping now, because they are ripping now. But the absolute best time, or the absolute safest time to buy altcoins for me, is right when it hits this line at 0.25. Maybe it gets down there, maybe it doesn't get down there, but I have this orange box to kind of help me figure that out. And then of course the halving starts in April of 2024, and that's when all hell breaks loose. So for me, the next time to buy altcoins is just the next major pullback in the market. Obviously, Bitcoin looks like it's super bullish right now. It's going to continue up. Again, I would look for something like this. We'll just go ahead and grab a brush. And with this weekly candle, I'm really just looking for a straight move up here close to the 0.5, to be honest with you, around 40K. Maybe a slight pullback, very, very slight pullback. And then up to the 45K area in the next week after that. And then probably, unless there's just some piece of bullish news that is just absurd, then probably a retracement, a slow retracement all the way back, eventually close to the halving, back to probably this area or the 26K area or the 22K area. I really don't think it's going to go that far. Most likely it'll probably just pull back to 32K. And then that's when this starts right here, onwards and upwards. So that's what I'm looking for. Obviously you have to be flexible. You have to go off what the indicators give you. I think this is the one time in the market, other than the actual bull run, where the RSI is not as helpful as it is in, say, the year before the halving, or even the year after the bull market ends. Although the RSI is very helpful in this general area, and all the indicators are very helpful in this general area, but they start to be less individually useful as we get into the bull market, or even this part of the cycle where we have a huge bear market relief rally or the disbelief stage. So hopefully that helps. Watch out for Bitcoin this week and next week for sure, and then start to really evaluate your position and what you want to do in the market. Hopefully you learned something from this. If you're new here, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, leave me a comment below. Let's all enjoy this for what it is, this giant move up, and we will see you in the next video. Safe trading.